Welcome into today's session. My name is Casey Webster, and I am so glad that you are here to join us for part 2 of our How to Build a Strategic HR Plan. Great timing as we are starting to near the end of the year and everyone's getting ready to start looking at those objectives, looking at those business goals, and deciding what is it that we need to do as an organization in order to help our companies reach those objectives. Um, so I'm actually in Sandusky, Ohio today. I spoke yesterday at the conference. There's an HR conference up here. Had 2 sessions yesterday and still at the conference today. It's been a great time connecting with other HR professionals, learning from each other, sharing our information. And actually what I presented on yesterday was a lot around how do we talk to our CEOs and how do we get buy-in on those things that we're looking for? When we have those projects, how do we get that funding? And so what I wanted to do today as a follow-up from what we did on Monday is several people put in what their business objectives are going to be for next year. And I picked one, and I'm going to walk you through some of the things like I would be thinking of if this was my CEO that brought me these objectives. And the one that I picked is actually, it's in the banking industry. And this is and I thought I would pick the one in the banking industry because we all probably have a bank account. And so we somewhat understand like the concept of banking, right? And one of their objectives that they sent to me was in order for them to give X amount in loans, they need consumers to deposit X amount of money into the bank so that they can fund those deposits. So I thought this was a really good one where it's not something that I think a lot of HR people would look at and say, oh, I can have an impact on that. So I want to walk through. I actually created a little bit of a PowerPoint for this one to make it a little bit easier to follow along after our last session. So let me get that pulled up here for everybody. Okay. So again, we're going to go through this example for this bank using the 11 steps to the strategic HR plan that we went through on Monday. And let's go ahead and just jump right into it. So step 1 is to identify those core initiatives. So here's the things like when I started to think about that initiative for the bank and how would I get my people and culture to impact our customers depositing more money into the bank, I would start to think about like what has to happen to actually grow deposits? Like what does that process look like? I think about attracting new customers, especially those younger and like digital first people that are coming into our workforce. I think about relationship building. We have a lot of existing customers. So how do we get them to invest more at our bank? I'd also think about like what makes us unique as a bank, what makes us different. This example, they had shared with me that they are local. They've got 4 branches within about a 30-mile radius. So they're not all across the globe. So it's a very local hometown feel. I was thinking about things like how personable are they? How reliable are they? And then from that HR angle, I'm thinking, okay, where can I identify that people and culture initiative to really support growth? So I'm thinking like customer facing staff. So our tellers that are at that front desk, what is that experience? Because they're the ones collecting the money, right? When we make deposits, um, what is that marketing alignment? Uh, what is marketing out doing so that we get more people depositing money? I think about community engagement since is that hometown feel. And then also like what type of digital skills do we need to have as more and more people are depositing money through taking a picture on an app of their check, through Venmo and PayPal, how we're paying differently. How does that ultimately get into our bank accounts as additional deposits? So, I also started thinking about those digital skills that our workforce is going to need. So then the second step in our process is to map out those key stakeholders. So again, my background's manufacturing. So giving a banking example here, it's like, okay, when I think about how I would run a bank, so I would think that the CEO, they're going to own the deposits, right? That growth target, they set that out. They're the ones that promise to the board of directors, like, this is how much money we're going to work towards depositing next year. Our CFO is going to actually really going to care about that deposit mix. So what is like low cost versus high cost on from a deposit standpoint. Um, our head of our retail banking and those branch managers, those are like our front line, right? Those are the people, they're leading the people that are actually taking the money from those tellers. So I think those are some people I'd want to go tap on the shoulder and talk to. Thinking about our chief marketing officer or marketing, they're going to be in charge of those community campaigns, digital outreach. Now, in this example, because the bank said that they were smaller, they might not have a marketing department. That might fall on HR or the branch managers. Our customer service leaders, so trying to understand service consistency and handling any questions they may get. And then, of course, we've got that compliance, so ensuring that our promotions and our campaigns that we're running to try to get more deposits into the bank are meeting regulation. And then when I think about all of those stakeholders and like what their role is in trying to increase deposits for the bank, I'm thinking, okay, this is going to impact staffing, training, engagement, and then also our leadership pipeline. So as we move into step 3, this is where we're going to go in and we're going to start defining those information gaps. So this is where I like to ask a lot of open-ended questions. And when I was speaking yesterday at this conference, I talked a lot about we need to dig really deep. We need to go past the surface of things. So with our CEO, CFO, I'm going to be curious, like, where do you expect this growth to come from? Are we looking at new accounts, people coming to our bank and opening up new accounts? Are we wanting our existing clients to put bigger deposits in? Is it a mix of both? So that's going to help me understand, okay, what kind of training do I need to provide my staff with so that they are ready to take on these additional deposits and who to really target? When I think about like the retail banking side, like, when I think about deposits, it's like what stops our frontline staff from maybe opening or upselling accounts? So maybe somebody comes in and they say, "Hey, I want a checking account." Are they trained and feel comfortable to say, "Oh, would you also be interested in opening a savings account? Or would you also be interested in opening a CD? Would you mind if I tell you some more information about it?" So is our retail banking, are those gaps potentially that we could train in? From our marketing staff, which customer segments are they going to be targeting? Do they have any awareness gaps? Are they going into a new area? Is it, or is our strategy, has it changed at all? Have we always in the past worked on trying to get our existing clients, customers to put in more deposits, or maybe it's, and now we're looking at that younger generation trying to get them to open accounts. So has there been any change in our strategy? That's something I'm going to be curious about. And then from a customer service standpoint, when somebody calls in, if we have complaints, where are those coming from? Where do we lose our customers' trust today? And is there training or development, or maybe we are short-staffed that's causing our current customers not to have trust in us? So as we dig really deep to try to understand how we can apply people and culture to these business initiatives and help these other departments, I'm thinking, do we have enough staff to handle this growth? I'm thinking, are tellers or our loan officers trained in being able to have a consultation and lead them to putting more money into the bank? And then what is our turnover rate for our relationship staff? Those people who customers know by name. That was a big transition I think about for me when I think about like as an HR professional, and now I'm thinking about, okay, how do I help a bank? I think about my personal experience in the banking industry, right? Like when I grew up in a small town. And when I would walk into the bank, they knew my name. It was like, hey, Casey. And then I moved to a larger town where no one knows me and they need like 3 forms of ID, right? Before they will let me do anything. And so, that was a major culture change for me personally. So like with this example that we're doing, we've got this small hometown bank. So they can get really personable, right? Because they are smaller. They're not like a Chase that has branches all over the United States where I might not always go to the same one. So trying to think about those people that have those relationships with our customers, I want to understand what is their turnover rate, because those relationships are really valuable, I believe, in this kind of banking example. So the next step in our 11-step process of how to build an HR strategic plan is starting to look at our workforce planning and those critical roles. So if I'm thinking, okay, my CEO came to me and said, we need to increase our deposits next year. I am going to be thinking about our tellers and our customer service reps, right? Because they are our first impression to our clients, their service, their speed. I'm going to, do they know the names of people as they come through the bank? Our personal bankers, those relationship managers, what is their skill set of being able to cross sell? Are we able to retain those relationship builders? When I think about our branch managers, I'm going to think about like local leadership and any community ties. And then I mentioned earlier about that digital banking support. So many people now are making deposits online. What do we do? Because it's harder to build relationships with those people that are doing everything online, right? So what is that experience? How can we make it as friendly and easy as possible so it feels like we are right there with them? So those are some of the HR questions I'm asking when I'm thinking about workforce planning in this type of example. Is like, do we have capacity? Do we need more relationship builders in our bankers versus that transactional teller? So then it's time, once I've went out and I've had those all conversations, I've talked to the branch managers, I've talked to customer service, I've talked to marketing. I'm going to have a lot of information to now sit down at my desk and say, okay, what is the HR plan I'm going to propose of how I'm going to help this bank increase their deposits? And when I look at this, my framework I'm going to use is like, what's the data? What's the insight? What's the decision, the action, and the outcome? So one example may be like a new banker ramp up. So maybe when I went out and I talked, I learned that new bankers take 9 months to consistently open deposits. So maybe that insight is that that ramp up of how long it takes a new banker to actually be able to start opening accounts is too long and it's slowing our deposit growth. So maybe I need to increase how fast I can get them onboarded into that new role. And so maybe my action step is to redesign our onboarding with whether it's role plays or simulations or mentoring, something where they can practice getting people to open up those accounts and make those deposits. How can I give them that practice quicker and sooner versus maybe on the job? Maybe we throw people into the role today and it's like trial and error, and eventually they get it and they figure it out. But is there some way in my onboarding process that I can put in some kind of simulation to help them gain those skills without impacting my customers? Because we don't want to make a customer upset during training and onboarding, right? And then that leads to trust issues. So maybe I have this idea that, okay, I'm going to offboard that type of training off of on the job in front of customers, and I'm going to put them through some simulations to really help them build those skills before I even put them in front of our customers. And then maybe I feel like that outcome, maybe we could ramp it up and drop it to 6 months or 3 months, which is ultimately going to increase our deposits to grow faster. Maybe another example I uncovered in all of my conversations was our customer conversion rates. Let's say our data through our conversations say that only 25% of our customers are opening checking accounts, also open a savings CD. So, checking is money coming in, money coming out, right? Whereas CD, they're locking it in for a longer amount of time. So ultimately, to increase deposits, we want people to be more in savings and CDs, right? And so my insight might be that staff aren't consistently cross-selling. So when they come in and they open that checking account, what kind of training can we provide so that people are also opening up maybe a CD at that same time or in a shorter period of time after they open that checking account? So maybe our decision is we want to improve our sales skills in these employees. And where our action is going to be, we're going to train our tellers and our bankers on how to identify and suggest additional products. Maybe our tellers today, maybe I learned that they don't even understand how CDs work. So maybe we decide we're going to put them through training so that they can upsell that better. And then my outcome, my goal of what this is going to look like in a year is I want a higher conversion. I want more deposits per customer. Another example that maybe I uncovered is branch staffing. Maybe what I'm seeing is that during peak hours, right after work, your work lets out at 3 o'clock for first shift in manufacturing, and we have a huge line out the door, and it takes 15 minutes for somebody to wait in line. Maybe I'm learning through this that our customers are leaving frustrated, and they've already sat there for 15 minutes. They don't want to open a new account and sit there even longer. So maybe we decide to adjust our staffing models. Maybe from 1 to 3, we only need 2 tellers, but then from 3 to 6, we need 5 tellers. So maybe I do some workforce analysis of our scheduling of when do I need my tellers, how many tellers do I need? Because maybe I want to drop it from 15-minute wait time to 3-minute wait time. And so maybe that's how I fix, this situation, and ultimately as HR help the business grow deposits. Another example is community engagement. So maybe our branches are active in the community. We see a 20% higher account opening. But there's some branches that can't get out into the community as often. And we know that this really drives trust with our clients when they know us, they know our name, they see us, they recognize us. I'm that hometown banker, right? I'm not this global company. Like those are those niche people they're trying to go after. So maybe I decide to expand my staff involvement into local events. Maybe we put together a volunteer program in HR where we allow every employee to take 8 hours a year to go volunteer. And the requirement is they have to wear a branded shirt of our bank and talk to people about how they are there, that, I got this great benefit from my employer that allows us to come out and volunteer once a week, or what, not once a week, once a year, whatever that policy would be. So something even like, you know, I hear a lot of HR departments say, like, we want to put in a volunteer program. And it's like, yeah, that feels good and that's right. But how does that directly drive the business? But if I go to my CEO and I say, hey, I want to drive customer deposits by letting our employees take 8 hours off a year to go volunteer and be in the community and build relationships so that we can increase our deposits, that's when we're going to get approval from our CEOs. When they can connect what we're asking for to what that CEO has promised to the board of directors, that's when we get approval. The fifth example, maybe we find out through our research that employee turnover is happening too much in some of our key roles. And we're finding out maybe our relationship bankers is 28%, and that is way too high, especially for when you think about a small bank, right? That maybe has 50, 75 employees. 28% would be a lot. So losing that staff, that ultimately is going to drive down our deposits, right? Maybe that person goes to a different bank and maybe they're going to take those relationships, because we buy things from people or from brands, right? So if my banker leaves and goes down the road, I might choose that I want to stay with my banker because I trust that person. That's who I've always done my banking with. And so maybe I decide I'm going to figure out how to improve retention of our customer facing staff. So maybe we launch a recognition program. Maybe we add incentives. Maybe we add a career pathing so that those relationship managers understand this is how I could become a loan officer, or this is how I could become a in finance within the bank, whatever that is. Like, map that out so they don't feel like, oh, this is all I can ever do here. I've got to go to a bigger bank if I ever want to grow. So I think that would be a great way for an HR professional to show how they can impact deposits in this space. And then one last example would be that digital adoption that we talked about. More and more people are not walking into that bank and actually physically depositing money. They're doing it through, I do it all the time. Somebody sends me money through Venmo and I hit the transfer to bank, and 3 days later that money's in my bank account, right? So how do we encourage more people through those apps from a people and culture lens in HR to send that money to the bank when they're doing all of those different electronic payments? So I might learn that customers are really starting to expect this, especially in the lower or the younger generations, right? That's all they really know. They'll probably never experience in their life actually getting a physical paycheck, having to take it to the bank and cash it. That is something that they may never experience. Like, times are changing, right? And so when I think about that, how do we make that digital part of the deposit or part of our growth strategy? So when I think about from an HR lens, how do I train my frontline staff to onboard customers into mobile apps? How do we help them? Do we have sessions or webinars where we talk about how to hook your Venmo up to your bank account, how to hook your PayPal up to your bank account? Do we have some kind of game that we implement with our customers where they get so many points for how much they deposit into their bank? How can we make it fun and exciting through that digital ways? Because we know as an outcome, the higher adoption we have, the increased stickiness we'll have, right? And we'll get more of those retained deposits. So then moving into step 6 of our 11-step process is leveraging AI to simplify our workflows. So we right now have 6 initiatives that we're going to go after to help our bank increase those deposits. But we're a small bank. We don't have a lot of resources. We don't have a lot of tools. And so what can we do from an AI standpoint to really help simplify so that I can spend more time developing career paths, so I can spend more time training our staff versus being stuck behind a computer processing payroll or processing benefits? So some quick ideas, maybe we automate our resume screening to hire those frontline staff faster. Maybe we use AI to analyze service calls to find out where those missed deposit opportunities were. So that can help us better design our training. Or maybe I use it to summarize my interview notes or my meetings, so HR can really focus on strategy and not admin work. And then we go into step 7, which is assessing your resources. So I'm going to look at my technology I have in the HR department. How am I collecting resumes today? Are they, they're a small bank, but I'm guessing they probably don't have a real nice ATS system. You know, are we getting resumes as we are turning people over to fill these roles? How are we uh, measuring our net promoter score of our customers? How are we measuring our ramp up? Um, on the people side, do I have enough recruiters and trainers to really support this deposit growth? Do I have my resources aligned correctly? I think about tellers, like what are they doing when somebody's not at the desk depositing? Like what are additional things they could be doing and I could develop them into? And maybe they could take on some of this work. Maybe they could help us design some training or so forth. Like when you're in a small organization, you get creative, right? We wear multiple hats. Budget, can we invest in sales training, community outreach? How do I take that information that I had and say, look, if I can reduce the amount of time it takes for a relationship manager to start getting people to open up accounts, if I could reduce that by 3 months, what would that increase our deposit amount by? And then I look at the cost of what would sales training cost and I do the ROI on it. I do some simple math. If I don't know how to do it, I throw it in AI and AI will do it for me. And then I take that to the CEO and I say, look, if I bring in this $5,000 sales training, I believe I can reduce the onboarding of these relationship managers by 3 months. And by doing this, we increase our deposits by $250,000 a month. Okay, so get really deep with this. If you just go to them and say, hey, I want to do some sales training to help people um, know how to sell CDs, it's going to be like, yeah, that'd be good, right? Like, yeah, I could see where that could be helpful, but it's not going to put that fire in that CEO's belly to say, you're right. That would make a real big difference if I can take it from 6 months of ramp up to 3 months of ramp up. Our step 8 is then build your action plan. Put it together. Everyone, I'm sure, has already some kind of structure that you use for your performance reviews or your strategic plan, but you're going to have your goal. What's the initiative? I'm just read through one of these. So like, I'm going to train our tellers and our bankers on how to have deposit conversations. And the people in my organization that are going to help own this with me is our HR, learning and development, and our branch managers, because our tellers report to our branch managers. And I want to do this in Q1. And then in Q2, I want to do a refresh training. And my metric is I want to increase deposits per employee by 15%. Okay. Work with your finance team, work with your branch managers, have them help you figure out this data. They can help you. Lean on them. They are your business partners. And this is like the biggest message I can say in this whole webinar today is executives don't want a 40-page HR strategy. They are not going to read it. They have so much on their plate. They do not have time to go through a 40-page HR strategy. What they want to see is a 1-page action plan. What are all the CEO's initiatives that they promised to the board of directors? How does it directly tie to deposit growth? Who's the owner? What's the timeline? What's the metric? And when HR presents like this, it looks and feels just like every other business function is presenting their plan to the CEO. Our next step 9, is to create your HR scorecard. So we've got our action plan. We know what we're going to do for the year, but now we got to have what are those couple metrics we're going to use to really track how we're doing? And one of the things I talked about yesterday in my live conference session was try to use dollar amounts. as much as possible. So for an example, we were talking about in my session yesterday, if you go to your CEO and you say, hey, our time to fill a job is 120 days. It's like, okay, it's 180 days. Okay. It's 60 days. Like, okay, like what does that mean for the company? But if I go to my CEO and I say, look, we are we are not getting deposits of about $50,000 per day because our time to fill is 120 days, that's going to strike them differently. They're going to go, oh, what do you need? What do you need? What can I do to help you? Do you need a third party recruiter? Do you need more advertising spend? Do you need to promote the jobs on Indeed, or do we need to post it on LinkedIn and pay for a job post? So if you can put it by numbers, like actual physical dollar amounts, even percentages, like when you say our turnover is 36%, okay, that's probably expensive. But if I say our turnover is costing us $50,000 per day in open position and untrained people, then the CEO is going, oh crap, that's a lot of money directly to the bottom line that we're not able um, to produce for our shareholders. So try to use numbers, dollars, as much as possible over days, over percentages. It's going to make a much bigger impact. And then we got to communicate, right? We're going to go to our other HR, or not HR, our peers on the executive team or our peers on our manager team, and we're going to say, okay, relationship manager, here's how me and HR, here's how I'm going to help you grow deposits. And they're going to be like, what? What? This is awesome, right? Like how you're connecting it. And then when you go to present it to the CEO as well, like you two are aligned. You're in this to step. We're going to do this together. We're going to add in this sales training and we're going to get more deposits. Um, we're going to show them how we can help them hit their goals, right? Um, and let them be the champions. Let them help sell it, right? So many times throughout my career, I would get my business partners so bought into what I wanted to do. Couple things. One, they would be the one pretty much pitching my idea to the CEO, which I'm okay with because I can show that I'm aligned and that we're doing this. Like, I don't have to take all the glory of that. I want them to see it's their metrics I'm impacting and they are bought in and they want to do this. And then the other piece is a lot of times they can get bigger budgets than I can. So I might go to my relationship manager and say, hey, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking about doing this sales training and it's going to cost $5,000. Do you think you could throw that in your training budget? And get them to ask for it. Step 11, to review and refine. So quarter one, month one happens. What do deposits look like? How have we impacted it? If not, adjust the plan. Maybe we didn't pick the right thing. Maybe we need to do something else. Maybe we need to do something faster. Celebrate the wins. Celebrate the wins. Make sure the CEO and the rest of the executives know, look, we put in this sales training and this happened. Take credit for it. Okay. Be brave, be bold, and say, we in HR did this. Because the more you show the results that you're having and you take credit for it, the more money you're going to get to help the people and culture within your organization. So that is the 11-step process. I'm going to open it up for questions for a little bit and then let you go upon your way. I do have up on the screen right now, as you're thinking of any questions that you may have, a little bit about our HR community, where to update the top of this slide. But this is, did I do a second one? Hold on. Sorry. I'm at a conference center and they're like wheeling plates beside me. I thought I had found a nice quiet corner, but um, scan the QR code. If you'd like to join an HR community where we think differently about HR, we are business leaders first that run HR functions. If that's how you think, if this really resonates with you and you want to be around more people that think like you, please join our community. We have the wait list here. It's getting ready to launch in the next couple of weeks. We're super excited to show it to everybody. But with that, I'll go ahead. If anyone has any questions, I'll go ahead and take those now.
I have one. It's
Yeah,
Diane. Hi, how are you?
I'm wonderful.
So I went on your wait list. So is that when the wait list is when you're launched and your wait list is moved into your launch? Is that the $35 or is that different?
Yeah, so once we go live, we will send out an email to everybody with the actual registration, and then you can make your decision then of, yep, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put in my credit card information and I'm going to
Okay,
join, or maybe it's not the right time.
got it. And then this is really kind of a nice. This today's was a segue from on the 22nd, right?
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to access the guide on the 20. Is there a way does it come out on a PDF or
Yeah,
when
so it's
I'm,
actually a web page. So I will throw the link in. Did you try the link or did you not get any link at all?
no, I tried the link, but it doesn't give me a guide. It just gives me more of an advertisement. It's
Okay.
kind of strange.
Let me
I see
open it
what's
up.
inside the guide, and then there's something that says the truth, and then the people and culture sales system.
Yep, keep scrolling down till you get to like step one.
Then I see the funnel stages, people, culture, sales funnel, and then 12 steps to building. Is that the guide?
Yep, that's it.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Okay. And then I'm sorry, I want to apologize. I came 6 minutes late. I didn't get a chance to see your first slide. Is there anything I missed that was pertinent?
So the very first slide was just the quick 11 steps again.
Oh, it was a summary?
Before
Because I
I
thought
went
I came
in,
in on step 2. Was that slide 2?
I
Sorry about
see.
that. I
No, you're
apologize.
fine. Not, I gotta find my right
I didn't mean
screen
to be
here.
6 minutes late. 6 minutes late. I
No,
had a
no,
howling
no.
dog.
I totally get it. Okay, let's see.
I came in at step 2.
So identify the core initiatives was step one. So really
Right.
trying to understand like what's happening to grow those
Yeah.
deposits.
Right.
And then the
Okay.
first
And
slide was just a quick overview of the 11.
yeah, and then on your, I didn't know how you framed it up at the very beginning because I missed it, but is you use the deposits in the banking industry just as your illustration. It really can apply to anything.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you. I think it was great. It was a perfect kind of bookends from Monday to today. And
Oh,
I
perfect.
got your response back, and I will book some time with you next week when you free up.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or? All right, then I am going to jump back into the live conferences here, but keep following me on LinkedIn for our next webinar. We will probably have one again towards the end of next week, continuing to line up additional speakers to have conversations with about how do we become more strategic in HR and give you more examples of what other people are doing. So trying to find those HR practitioners out there that are doing really cool work and highlighting what they are doing. So watch LinkedIn. I'll also send emails out about upcoming webinars. But thank you so much for joining, and we will see you next time.
Thank
Take
you so
care.
much, Casey. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.